What if everything you think you know about Christianity began with a mistake? A mistake made by the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. What if I told you that Christianity did not rise because it was supported by power, wealth, or armies, but because it was hunted, banned, and meant to disappear? 2,000 years ago, the cross was not a symbol of hope. It was a warning. It meant pain. It meant shame. It meant a slow, public death designed to break the human spirit. So before we speak about Jesus, before we speak about Christianity, we must ask a more uncomfortable question. What kind of world creates a cross? Because Christianity was not born into peace. It was born into fear, control, and absolute power. And to understand how one man changed history, we must first understand the world that existed before he ever spoke a word. 2,000 years ago, the world did not believe in one truth. It believed in many gods, hundreds of them. Every city had its own divine protector. Every natural disaster was a message from the heavens. Every success or failure was blamed on forces humans could not question. Religion was not about comfort, it was about survival. In Egypt, the Nile River decided life and death. If it flooded correctly, crops would grow. If it did not, people starved. So the Egyptians did what made sense to them. They turned nature into gods. Ra controlled the sun. Osiris ruled the afterlife. And Pharaoh was not merely a king, but a living god walking among humans. In Greece, gods looked like humans, acted like humans, and behaved worse than humans. They fought. They cheated. They punished mortals for pride or curiosity. If lightning struck your home, Zeus was angry. If war was lost, Athena had turned away. Fear was the language of faith. People did not love their gods. They tried to keep them satisfied. And then came Rome, not as a religion, not as a philosophy, but as a machine. Rome did not conquer the world with belief or persuasion. It conquered it with discipline so ruthless that resistance itself became unthinkable. At Hitza, the Roman Empire ruled over nearly a quarter of all humanity, stretching its authority across 3 continents. Stone roads cut through mountains and deserts, allowing legions to march with terrifying speed. These roads were not built for trade alone. They were built so armies could arrive before rebellion had time to breathe. Rome did not negotiate loyalty. It demanded submission. The Roman system was brutally simple. Order stood above morality. Law stood above life. Slavery was not an exception. It was a foundation of society. Human beings were bought, sold, and discarded without consequence. To disobey Rome was not to commit a mistake, it was to sign your own death sentence. Fear was not a side effect of Roman rule. It was the tool that sustained it. Nothing symbolized Roman authority more clearly than crucifixion. This punishment was never designed to kill quickly or humanely. Crucifixion was engineered to destroy the body slowly, and the spirit publicly. Victims were stripped naked, nailed or bound to rough wooden beams, and lifted into the air where every gasp of breath became agony. They were placed along roadsides, city entrances, and crowded spaces, not hidden away, but displayed. Sometimes they hung there for hours, sometimes for days. People walked past on their way to work. Children grew up watching it. Rome wanted the message burned into memory. Defy us, and this will be your end. Rome did not fear rebellion, because rebellion could be crushed with steel, fire, and blood. What Rome feared, what it could never truly control, were ideas. Ideas did not bleed. Ideas did not die on crosses. And without realizing it, the greatest empire the world had ever seen was about to confront the most dangerous idea in human history, an idea that no army could arrest, no law could silence, and no cross could destroy. Within the vast Roman Empire was a small, restless province called Judea. Judea was insignificant in size, but dangerous in belief. Its people were Jews, and they refused to worship Roman gods. They rejected Jupiter. They rejected Mars. They rejected the idea that the emperor was divine. They believed in one God, invisible, absolute, and above every king. To Rome, this was deeply unsettling, because if the emperor was not a god, then the emperor was merely a man, and Rome's authority depended on being unquestionable. Even more troubling was the Jewish belief in a coming Messiah, a chosen one who would free them from oppression. Rome interpreted this as rebellion waiting to happen. So Judea remained under constant surveillance, ruled harshly, and watched closely. And it was here, under occupation, tension, and fear, that a child was born who fit none of the expectations of power. The birth of an unlikely figure, Jesus was not born into royalty. There were no soldiers at his birth, no palace, no announcement to the empire. He was born into poverty, in a forgotten corner of the Roman world. This alone made no sense. People expected a Messiah to arrive as a warrior, someone who would destroy Rome, not speak to it. But as Jesus grew, it became clear that he was not interested in political power. He spoke to fishermen, to the poor, to the sick, to women, something almost unheard of at the time, and what he taught was even more unsettling than rebellion. He spoke of loving enemies, of forgiving those who wronged you, of humility over dominance. This was not a message that threatened Rome with violence. It threatened Rome with transformation. Within the vast and uncontrolled Roman Empire existed a small, restless province called Judea. On the map, it looked insignificant, a narrow strip of land on the eastern edge of Roman power. But in belief, Judea was dangerous. Its people were Jews, and unlike most conquered nations, they refused to bend their faith to Rome. They would not worship Jupiter. They rejected Mars. They completely denied the idea that the Roman emperor was divine. Instead, they believed in one God, unseen, absolute, and higher than every king, army, and emperor on earth. To Rome, this belief was deeply unsettling, because if the emperor was not a god, then the emperor was merely a man, and Rome's authority survived only as long as it remained unquestionable. Faith in Judea was not just religion. It was resistance. Even more troubling was the Jewish belief in a coming Messiah, a chosen one, promised by prophecy, who would free them from oppression. Rome heard only one thing in that belief: rebellion waiting to happen. As a result, Judea lived under constant pressure. Roman soldiers patrolled its streets. Taxes were harsh. Punishments were swift. Governors ruled with suspicion, always watching, always expecting an uprising. Fear hung in the air like smoke. And it was era, under occupation, tension, and silent anger. That a child was born would fit none of Rome's expectations, and none of the people's either. Jesus was not born into royalty. There were no soldiers standing guard at his birth, no palace walls, no royal announcements sent across the empire. He was born into poverty, in a forgotten corner of the Roman world, far from power and politics. This alone made no sense. People were waiting for a Messiah who would arrive as a warrior, someone who would raise an army, shatter Roman rule, and reclaim the land by force. But as Jesus grew, it became clear that he was not interested in political power at all. He did not speak to generals or kings. He spoke to fishermen, to laborers, to the poor, the sick, and the outcasts of society. He spoke openly to women, something almost unheard of in that era. And what he taught was even more unsettling than open rebellion. He spoke of loving your enemies, of forgiving those who wronged you, of humility over dominance, mercy over violence, and service over authority. This was not a message that threatened Rome with swords or armies. It threatened Rome with something far more dangerous: transformation. Because an empire built on fear cannot survive when people stop being afraid. If you're enjoying this deep historical breakdown, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is only part 1. Part 2 is coming, where the story becomes even more intense. The teachings, the trial, and the moment that changed history forever. Stay tuned, and don't miss what comes next.